first confession is about, I caused my grandfather to have a heart attack and told nobody. This was in 2003. I was over at his home to help clean up and cook him meals because he had arthritis and could only do so much by himself. I used to pop round twice a week and my sister would go the other 5. On one of my days I was vacuuming while he was in the other room. He hated the sound of the vacuum. I felt like teasing him a bit and swung the door open into his room suddenly and pointed the vacuum end towards him. The shock had caused him to have a heart attack. I didn't know what to do. I didn't care for the man much, and in my head at the time I was almost relieved to see him lying back on his chair seemingly lifeless. But then I thought about how I had just killed him and felt intense shame. I had only been there for about an hour, so I decided to leave the home and phoned my sister to say I couldn't make it to grandfather's house today because of work. Luckily she was free that day and she found him. I was almost sure he was dead and that I had killed him, but miraculously he survived. My family had thought it was just a random heart attack, and he never said anything about me or that day. I'm not sure whether he just didn't remember or he purposely said nothing. A few months before he died in 2014, 77, I told him that I caused his heart attack a decade prior, but he said nothing. In almost all of my nightmares I see him sitting in that chair. I can never forget this no matter what I do. The next confession is about, I took out my anger and frustration on my little sister and I deeply regret it. I took out my anger and frustration on my little sister and I deeply regret it. Reliving this makes me want to cry. I feel horrible about this and think about it often. I have 2 sisters. We grew up with toxic parents. They were verbally abusive and sometimes, not all that often, physically. My parents were very neglectful, alcoholics, so my older sister took care of me and I eventually took care of my youngest sister. My oldest sister would lash out at me for having to take care of me and I did the same to my youngest sibling. I don't remember what happened exactly, but my dad was angry and yelling at me about something and I got angry at my little sister. I was supposed to give her a bath. I ran the water. I didn't check the temperature. She was being difficult and I yelled at her to get in the bath. She was crying. She put her foot in and tried to tell me it was too hot, but I didn't listen. I yelled at her to get in the bath. Thankfully she didn't listen to me. She yelled back through tears that it was too hot. I angrily checked and it was. I never apologized. I just adjusted it and had her take a bath. It brings me to tears to think about it. She was young and innocent. She never deserved to be treated that way. I was passing along the pain that I felt to someone who only deserved to be loved and taken care of. I totally failed her. I was evil and horrible to her. In that moment I became everything that I hated. I feel so terrible. I wish I could go back and hug her in that moment and be the big sister she deserved. She's older now. I still need to apologize, but I don't know how to bring this up to her. The last confession is about, I stole pre-release software and shared it with the world. The problem came about when I legally changed my name after a divorce. I purchased some music software years ago that had over 50 plugins worth thousands of dollars in my account. I simply asked them to change my name on the account. I'll provide whatever they needed. I didn't want to use the software and people ask whose name is that and I'd have to constantly explain my entire life. They refused to do so and flagged my account for deletion. So I downloaded their beta software, which I was a member of, handed it to a programmer and he released it to download via torrent and hosting sites. They were devastated that someone could do such a thing in their support forums, just like how I was when I lost all my money with them.